Little pre-roll because sometimes it takes a couple seconds for the internet to get on board.
Yeah.
But, according to this, we are.
Are you going to do the intro? We're live, deep in the avenues. It's the DammitJim Show. Hey, crackers. 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
And let's get started. What's our first topic of
Dude,
the day? I gotta just
what's
take
on
off?
your mind? Let's just not fuck around. Just
All right.
get right into it.
Well, obviously, the first thing on my mind today is the recent release of this Michael Wolff book, which is giving us an inside view of the Trump White House, verifying a lot of what we've already thought would be going on.
And more importantly, what's the source Wolf is quoting mostly?
Well, the one that's been released was Steve Bannon, who had all kinds of wonderful things to say. And I'm going to let you talk a little bit on the Steve Bannon stuff in a second. But the one thing that I wanted to bring out, because I had mentioned this earlier about people asked about this White House. And I said, there's a lot of lifetime bureaucrats in the government that everybody likes to mock. But honestly, they're the ones that keep the trains running on time. They're the ones that deal with these politicians that come and go. And they tend to be there through the administrations. And they handle a lot of the day-to-day stuff that people don't even think about. One of the people was quoted in this book saying that the only reason they stay is because of their position and how long they've been around. They really know everything that's going on, and they're doing their best to manage, again, the train staying on time, the normal functions of government or any organization that has to happen on a daily basis. But they spend every day in a state of shock.
Whatever. They want their government
horror.
pension.
Well, you kind of want to hope.
Duh.
That not
Every day
everybody-
I stand in shock and horror when I go to work. I mean, what the fuck? Welcome to the club.
Well, I think it's a big difference when you're working in the White House and you've seen one president and another president. I mean, you can pick your political side, but even the Republicans or the Democrats that ever in, they still had a functioning government. They may have had ideological differences. They may have been, even criminal at times like a Nixon, but they weren't dysfunctional and incapable of doing the basic functions of government. And according to this book, we're talking about, major, major problems that are happening throughout the
You don't need the book,
administration.
Jim, to see the major problems.
No, you don't need the book, but verification is always one thing. One thing to have your opinion and have a sense of what's going on. Another thing to have it directly quoted from the White House.
And from his chief strategist, nonetheless.
Yeah, why don't you go over a few of the Steve Bannon gems that we got today?
Well, it's not so much. I think one of the points that you wanted to hit on, and I think this is key, is what happens if he sues. Right? He threatened to sue.
Right.
Steve Bannon and the publishers of the book.
Right.
Which, well, not so Steve Bannon, but the publishers. I'm sorry, Bannon isn't publishing the book, and nor is he wrote the book. It's written by Wolff, and Bannon is his major source.
Right, but they are claiming that they've got basically a gag order on Bannon.
Yeah.
A confidentiality agreement, which is obviously
A lot of people signed that shit in 2017 corporate world.
Right. Well, here's the one. First of all, you can't take away a person's free speech. That's just
Done.
a legal thing. It's one of the most frivolous
that's
lawsuits ever. But here's the real kicker. The point that why this
getting
lawsuit they say is imminent is never going to happen, because if the president sues Steve Bannon, then he has the right to depose essentially the entire White House staff.
Yep.
And they would be
And on record.
able to put under oath by
Yep.
threat of perjury in jail. And you can't plead a fifth
No.
when you're being deposed, because
No.
it's not a criminal procedure.
Right.
You're required to tell the truth. And if you lie, you can be put in jail for
Perjure
perjury.
yourself?
So why would you ever expose yourself and your entire staff over a lawsuit that you've got absolutely no chance of winning under almost any interpretation of Disclosure Act's laws?
Well, not only that,
besides the catch
rolling the dice of winning, you then have all these people under oath being deposed. That it's probably in your best interest that they don't ever say shit.
Right. Well, here's interesting. There's a history here, because Pat Robertson, years ago when he was running, he sued a couple congressmen. And the result was that they turned around and deposed him and a lot of his staff, and a lot of things started coming out that he didn't want to come out. So he basically disturbed them. So it's really, I mean, this is basically just dumb. You know, it's just one of those things where you're like,
I'm going to sue you.
Yeah, I'm going to sue you. The guy is, I mean, you go back, and this is one of those things we've seen too.
He's a fucking bitch.
My button's bigger than your button stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not presidential speech. I think we as American citizens, we have
it's not presidential.
To have a president who behaves in the job the way we job on himself with this childish
tweeting. McDonald's like every day.
Well, you know,
it's disgusting.
You know, I mean, yeah, that's bad, especially in this day and age. But again, that's the least of my concerns. I don't care how fat the guy is.
You know, it's not about even fatness.
I know, but
grotesquerie.
And then, could you imagine what Trump would say about Hillary Clinton if they said that she was sitting in bed eating cheeseburgers at night all the time?
The first thing they did was destroy Michelle Obama's Oval Office garden, her White House garden. It's one of the first things they did.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have any policies of himself. Most of what he's done is just simply trying to unroll anything that
he's
Obama
got
did.
policies, and he's like we talked about earlier. He's one of these things that I think people. It's easy to lose sight when you have a giant circus in a normal circumstance, and then when you have a circus that Trump creates, it's just everyday outrage. It's hard to lose sight that he is actually moving some mechanisms of government. And people aren't really he's completely remaking the judiciary in this country. He's appointed, dozens of judges, and not everybody hears about the Supreme Court stuff. That's very sexy, but at the federal level,
very important judges. He's actually gone so far as to personally interview attorney generals, which is highly unusual and it's very suspect because the legislative branch does not have power over the judicial. But he behaves as if they do. He absolutely should not be interviewing. Only in contact with is the Attorney General of the United States. Never the presidential executive branch.
No.
That should never happen. No. And a lot of these rules were put in place during the Nixon era because of the abuse, because of the firings that he did and the meddling he was doing in the judiciary in an attempt to. These protections have been put in place a long time ago.
Right.
And now they're being challenged and ignored. But, again, I mean, one of the things that came out was that, Trump was, when they were teaching about the Constitution, he got to the Fourth Amendment and he was done. The guy's like,
what do you mean when they were teaching about?
They actually, if you become president, one of the things you're going to go through is you may think you know the Constitution, but you're going to go through a briefing on all of these legal precedents and all these legal concepts to make them fresh in your mind and make sure that you have an understanding at a presidential level. There's a lot of that goes on with any politician that comes into office. There's a certain learning that they have to go through so they understand how the office works, what the rules are. You're not going to know that as a private citizen. You don't need it to become elected president. So you go through this. There's defense briefings. There's all kinds of stuff that these guys go through. And Trump has simply not engaged in any of it. He just believes that his gut instinct is smarter than any person. That seems to be the way.
That's obvious. I don't know why you're questioning that. He's a
winner. But
you're
now we're
not.
Seeing
so that's the problem, really.
The problem is now we're seeing the proof of that and the evidence of that repeated over and over and over. We've never seen people speak about their president the way that people speak about this one. We're in uncharted territory here, and we're in dangerous territory.
Well, that's what comes back to the book. The same things that we continually hear about people speaking off the record about Trump. They're the same, themes have came up, and these are people who are on his staff. Lack of preparation, complete ignorance, just general fuckery, of a level that you would even think that someone could run a dumb Trump company with, right? But this cat's in charge of a country,
Yeah. And it's a very scary proposition, and we're relying on the bureaucrats to hold things together during this time.
And
but
he also wants mosquito by your face. I don't even say you don't see it. It's gone.
Use it. Wow, it's funky. Landed on the microphone, not gone. All right, we got live.
Oh, Rika's home.
Yeah, Mama has arrived.
Oh, like the dogs are being raped or something.
No, that's their celebratory day.
Jesus Christ!
They have a song of the Mama come home. They have a dance of the biscuit. They have the chicken dance, and then they have the Mama's home, Mama's home, Mama's home. Oh my God, Mama's home dance.
That's pretty epic.
Yeah, I get that. I get it daily. Actually, what the worst thing is if we get a delivery like right around the time Rika's supposed to get home, they don't obviously know the difference. They just hear the noise and they think it's Mama's.
Right.
So I get they have rehearsal. I don't really know how sophisticated the performances get or what goes on behind the scenes, but I just know that I get privileged to a lot of those performances on a regular basis. Sometimes in the middle of the night when they get bored. Dogs, baby. But it's getting back to the Trump stuff and a lot of what this stuff that's been going on. Again, people. We all sort of know, like you said earlier, like the whole world knows there's just incredible fuckery going on. And this is a huge mistake putting this guy in the position that we have.
Lost
if you have an objective point of view, there's just no way you
amounts of credibility if we
We've
even
lost
have any
credibility.
left.
I mean, the tweets. I mean, understand, we hear the
So
tweets
far
from
behind.
the
That's
American
the
point of view.
sad part.
Imagine what the tweets sound like to somebody in a foreign government or a foreign country. How do you feel if you're in South Korea? You're South Korean. These scary as hell.
Shut the fuck up.
You're talking about a guy in North Korea North Korea has the economy the size of Rhode Island.
Yeah, it's
Presidents shouldn't be bothered by something that small. Yeah, he can do a lot of damage, but how do you manage a little squeaky bully? You're giving him a world stage.
His false bravado.
It does. And he's playing this game with a guy
That
who shouldn't even get
motherfucker is a
presidential attention.
bitch.
Which one?
Trump.
Oh yeah. Well, he's a really, really. I mean, there's questions about his literacy. Sometimes I think they go too far, but then you get more and more evidence, and maybe not. He could be even worse than we realize.
Let's just do a street fight, dude. I'll find the 70-year-old guy. I'll make it fair, and we'll just find out what kind of man you really are. And I guarantee you'll just be pissing himself.
Is it like ancient Siam, where the
I'll get some Vietnam vet, salty as fuck, a day. Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's see what you are.
Let's see. So,
Fucker.
All right. So, needless to say, 2018. I think things are going to get really bad this beginning of the year. I think the interest level is over. I think sort of like the we can kind of ignore it is over. And one of the things that's going to happen, because really, I was wondering about this when the tax thing passed. Because all of a sudden there was a lot of positive energy and people were like, well, maybe this won't be so bad if you just way. I'm not a baby with the bathwater. There are some things that will be positive out of this. I don't know how we pay for it. It's up to between $1.5 and $2.2 trillion in cost.
Yeah.
Well, there are businesses that are seeming to with a combination of the tax cuts and the regulations being released. There is business spending going on. You got to be careful to be intelligent about your criticism of the tax bill. Because it's not like it's just 100% bad. It's not black and white. You don't want to do to the tax bill what the Republicans did to Obamacare. Because Obamacare had some problems. Obamacare had some very positive things. But because they can simply said the whole thing was bad right out of the gate, they're just going to mess it up left and right. We got to really go through, because legislation requires that you go through and you fix it. Especially this one, since it didn't go through committee or anything else like that. There's going to be
problem number one.
That didn't go through the normal
course. That they fucking used backdoor tricks
right.
to pass an unpopular amendment, even with it wasn't popular in the U.S. It's not something the American people were screaming for.
Right.
Not everyone was, oh my God, fix my taxes.
Right.
Right.
Well, the vast majority
constituency, as they always do. This bill, that's what I said. I'm like, yeah, it's great for me. I get like 5 G's back.
Right.
I have enough disposable income to buy whatever I want when I need it because I'm rich.
In their defense, a lot of people won't do that, though. A lot of people will spend the
money.
Americans
the people who are getting the vast majority of their tax cuts are the people who are going to do the exact same thing I am. They're on the high end.
The people on the higher end will save more and more of it, yes.
They will not put it back into the economy. Right. They will not buy more widgets. They won't pay off their loans because they're already paid off. They don't have to pay off a car loan because they don't have it. Right. They don't have to buy a new car because they already have one.
Yeah, putting money into the hands of people with less will create more spending by percentage. Yes. Absolutely. I mean, that's just a known factor.
It's basic economics.
And this is still following the old supply side, trickle down sort of philosophy that many of us believe is just ridiculous.
I don't need anything else. I have everything. So why would I go buy more?
Right.
Just no. And especially when you're giving me, honestly, $5,000 is a sizable amount of money. It still buys a lot of goods and services in this economy.
And you actually make a great point, because you are the example that proves the rule. Because you have savings, you have money, you don't have debt.
No,
you live that way, and that's why you have the things you do. You don't necessarily earn more money than everybody else on the planet, but you manage.
People.
Well, most people, you earn more than most people, but there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people at your salary point that are living 25% above that,
right?
Whereas you're living probably 20 or 30% below what you could do. And I'm the same way.
Right.
We live well, but we live well beneath our means.
Yeah.
Because it's more important to me to be secure and stable.
Right.
So giving me more money, hey, I'm grateful. Made me feel good.
Sure.
I started looking at the taxes, and it was like, wow, this is actually looking pretty
I did
good.
that little chart on the post, and I'm like, bitchin'.
Yeah, it's going to be great. But,
Yeah.
you know, I don't represent
How
put in
much of
by
that
the
is
party
turned around in
who's
my
been
debt?
screaming about the deficit for the last how many years?
Thank you. That's the next point I was going to get to.
And at what point do they realize it? How come it's always when there's a Democratic president, the deficit gets
It's a
reduced or shrunk, or when there's a Republican,
We
the
got to
deficit
rend
blows
into
up.
spending.
But somehow
We got to fund all
it's
these
the-
bills
it's-
before we
it's
pass
the tax
them.
and spend Democrats. It just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense.
It's a bullshit narrative.
It's a cut and spend Republican versus a tax and spend Democrat. That'd be the best way to put it. At least they tax before they spend to some degree. I'm not advocating the Democrats' record on economy as well, because Democrats have their own whole host of problems. They just don't happen to be in power right now, so there isn't a whole lot of point of talking about them because they really can't do much. They're kind of waiting to figure out how to screw up the next election because they suck at getting elected.
Maybe, but
It's a great line. It's, if you're so smart, how come you lose so goddamn always?
But that is like, let's stay on that fucking point.
Right.
You know, this is a site again, right? Here we are, a completely conservative Republican administration, Congress, and what are they doing? They're putting us farther in debt. Right? Same thing. W comes in. He expands government larger than any president since FDR.
Right.
Okay? Expands the deficit large. I mean, come on. It's just you had a surplus when he comes in, and he has a massive deficit that he comes out and creates one of the largest financial crises in the history of humanity.
Right.
And somehow, like, they're not, that those don't stick to their party, which is like absurd. And like, here we are again, same fucking thing. They have no possible way to pay for these tax cuts. Except the magic math they do, and this somehow we're going to hit like 6% growth rate, which we haven't hit since after World War fucking II.
Right.
But somehow that's going to happen because we got a business-friendly president.
Right. The problem is there's just
fucking
no
absurd.
evidence to support this point of view.
Yes.
There's no doubt. And at some point, we have to get back to looking at empirical evidence and treating it
Seems
as empirical
impossible.
evidence. And we can't agree that water is wet in this country right now. It's flabbergasting because while you're trying to solve a problem, you have to go backwards and say, no, but water is wet. I shouldn't have to prove that. I shouldn't have to prove that the earth is round. I shouldn't have to go through that step. That's why it's not, well, you just don't want to hear what they have to say. No, I don't need to have the earth is round conversation.
It's
Right? We all know that, right? We all know that. But we do that
Some
with
people
other things.
deny it.
And they want to deny, but they have no evidence or reason to deny it whatsoever that they can produce. There's no empirical evidence to support what you're saying. Doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong. It means you have no evidence to prove it the other way. It's like you're just buying into the conspiracy right out of the gate. Now, yeah, there are conspiracies. There are bad people. There are versions of the deep state going on behind the scenes. I believe that happening well. But without evidence, I'm not going to assume that every organization involved, from NASA to the New York Times to the Social Security Department to the FDA, are all corrupt and evil and involved in this big conspiracy.
Maybe
no,
the FDA.
they're just not. The FDA, I've been to the FDA. I see how they work. It's not that organized. They're not organized enough to do these conspiracies, and it just doesn't work that way. They are very, very scientific, medical people, and they have a very, very narrow view when they're having these conversations. I've been in these meetings. I see how they go. And they're arguing about stuff that most lay people could never even begin to get into a conversation about. So they don't really understand how they reach the conclusions they do. Well, there's two ways. First, you've got science and you have politics, and they got to somehow blend those things together.
Right.
And that's where things get really screwed up and weird. It's just, that's politics. That's how politics works. I think that the American people with the rise of the internet are beginning to get a much bigger look into politics than they ever did before, just being lay people. Because unless you studied it and experienced it, you really don't understand how freaking crazy it really is.
Well,
It's nuts.
I would say, first of all, study is, if you just paid attention, all you have to do is read the daily news in some fashion to, quote unquote, be a political junkie. You don't have to, pick up a certain book, or you just have to pay attention to current events.
Right. These are people that watch television and surf the net. They don't read.
Well, I
books.
mean, yeah, or read a true news article. So it's a choice. And what I think people forget, you have to participate in democracy. right? And that means being an informed electorate. You are making, especially when you want to claim this godhead of global power and of righthood and, the shining light of democracy. If you want to be all of those things, then you have to participate. Like, you just can't expect those things to magically fucking happen while you're buying shoes every day, right? You have to be involved.
I think it's also, more to the point where you have to be much more discerning in who you choose to listen to.
Well, we've talked about that before. That's obvious. But I mean, first you have to take the step that say that I need to pay attention, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, then you have to get through the filtering of information. Absolutely, right? That's the next challenge in this age. But most people aren't even getting that far. They're just taking surface things they see in their daily, bullshit, cursor entertainment, right?
Hey,
Facebook. That's not. You don't go there. You just go there to be entertained, right? These places, and then you see some one line that your grandpa tweeted, right, or posted, and you go off on some weird tangent. That's not news. You know what I mean? Like that's not being informed. Like, you have to. It can't be part of your entertainment speed. You got to be I'm going to read. Essentially, old school terms. I'm going to read the paper. Mm-hmm. You can do that in a variety of ways now, right?
Right.
Not physically read a fucking paper, but read the news.
Yeah, but there's a deeper skill set, too, that I think is missing in a lot of people. And let me give you an example. I talked about this. I talked to you about it. So somebody posted on Facebook how People magazine listed an article about the 117 celebrities that died in 2017. And this person said, yeah, nice. You didn't mention the 133 police officers that were killed in line of duty, or the 33 soldiers that died, or the number of firemen that died. I think your priorities are screwed up. What do you think? Click, like to agree. Now, here's what really irked me about that.
It was People magazine.
Because what is People? It's the lack of understanding that People magazine is a celebrity entertainment news magazine. Yeah. So if they're going to list the people that passed away, that's their mission. That's their narrative. That's the narrow scope of information that they focus on.
Right.
They're not who you go to find out how many police officers died. That's not their job. That's not their mission. It's not that the police aren't important. Of course they're important.
Who you go to see.
And it also, if you want to make the point that it's too bad that we know all these celebrities, but we don't know the names of these police officers, I can even get that too. But to point a finger at People magazine and say somehow their priorities are screwed up is just a base misunderstanding. It's like you don't even belong in the conversation because you don't understand their sources or what's supposed to be happening here. I don't know how to argue with a person like that, because to me it's like it's remedial conversation. You have to take them backwards and say you need to understand the logical chain of events, what information goes where, so that you can. How can I trust your opinion on other things if you can't even figure out something as basic as that? It makes it very difficult. And I think that goes back to education. People just didn't get the education when they were younger, and now they're exposed to all this information, and they honestly. And it sounds a little insulting because it kind of is, but they don't know how to process it. Before they can even form an opinion to argue, they don't know how to process the basic information. It's a failing in education. It's a second failing, I think, also comes from, the fairness doctrine being removed and allowing people to post things as news when there's clearly no evidence to support it. Freedom of speech is great, but you should be able to label things which are considered empirical information versus what's, opinion and whatnot. I had actually had somebody ask me, well, how do you know? Like, wow. How do you know the difference between an article in the New York Times versus an article in Breitbart or, MoveOn.org even, which is a left, propaganda sort of style of journalism? How can I know?
Right.
They don't.
People. Another step back in that argument, and it's not only, you're an idiot because you think people should be talking about 150 dead police officers or whatever, but you're just looking for something to be outraged at that point.
Yeah.
Right, you're looking for
the conflict.
Yeah. How are these damn niggers trying to rise up today, or whatever? You're looking for that conservative hot button, or you can say society is
red meat, and
society is society values celebrities over police officers. You're trying to gin up your hate. Right. When you latch on to stuff like that, that's innocuous. People is just enough. It's just brain fodder. Mm-hmm. It's nothing you should ever look to for any other reason besides that. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the thing. And it's So imagine have something like that, and something, I don't know, a Daily Beast or some silly, or the Huff Post, where they have their areas that are kind of not serious news, right?
Right. Well, they have their red meat for their their readers too, and that's a really important thing to consider, because politics is basically about gotcha. They're looking for the gotcha. Yeah. If you make any misstep, there's a great example. Remember when Howard Dean ran for president?
He did that, woo,
and he got caught. It killed his political career. One out of tune.
I think that you could do that now.
Crushed him.
It just shows you the different. I mean, we got a guy grabbing women's pussies. It's not a big deal. So the woo is nothing at this point. Howard Dean just ran in the wrong time period.
The woo was nothing, but he became a punchline, and he didn't know how to overcome it. Whereas Donald Trump just wore it as a badge of honor and kept on going.
I grab pussies. That's right. That's what he did.
We have an opening here at the DammitJim Show for a Sideshow host.
That's what he did. I grab pussy. No, I don't grab pussy. Well, only if I'm invited to grab a pussy. That's the only time I grab a pussy.
Okay.
Just so we're clear.
Let's elevate. Can we elevate?
Just saying. Why? Why should we elevate? We need to devolve, Jim. Otherwise, it would make all this so much easier. Mm-hmm. We'll just start drinking radiator fluid.
Just drink. Let's get it over now, because it's got electrolytes.
The new part of the show will be you and I trying to dim down our brain function by drinking radiator fluid.
We could film it and see what happens. I'm not drinking radiator fluid.
Neither am I, asshole. It's a joke.
No, I'm gonna make you drink some. I got to see it now. But there's a lot going on, and that's bugging me. And the one thing I was going to rant about was one of the things that's bothering me is I'm getting a lot of this sort of false equivalencies. I've talked about this before, but it has to do with like the violence. And I was thinking about some of the greatest leaders we've ever had in this country. I mean, you look at Martin Luther King and his I Have a Dream speech. This is an iconic moment in American history. It's huge. The man is huge. He's bigger than the moment is bigger than the man, obviously, but what it changed and what it meant to this country it's going to be read about and looked at and researched for years. And what happened to him? Shot dead.
Got shot.
What happened to JFK? Got shot. What happened to Bobby Kennedy? Shot. What happened to Gandhi? Not American, but still, a leader of peace.
Got shot.
These people get murdered when they go out and they preach these very, very positive things in politics, but it might change the status quo.
Add to that, Martin Luther King, prior to, essentially they won the civil rights movement, and his movement was also anti-Vietnam, and that's why the FBI really didn't like him. So before he was scheduled to give a big anti-Vietnam speech, that's when they got popped. Yeah. So, I mean, he was an organizer larger is what I'm saying. He was a defended and a respected voice against the Vietnam War as well.
Mm-hmm. And, I just, when I look at like these movements and these violence in the country, and they say, well, both sides do it. And I say, okay, where is the left version of the KKK? What are they going to say?
Nothing.
There's
no burning churches, no killing children.
There's a lot of violence.
No killing people, burning churches with people in them. Right. None of that on the left.
This really, and it's like, who's the conservative MLK? Where's your icon to back that up? And just from a philosophical point, in a way, because if you are a progressive thinker, there's just no way that you're blowing up churches and whatever. Now, of course, everybody has their outliers, but this is systemic. This is much, much bigger. These are huge organizations, and they're still coming back. You got, the neo-Nazis in the Charlottesville, all of these types of, of thinkers, and you want to attack the left for its policies and philosophies. Okay, fine. I mean, I think there's good conversations to have when we're there. Conservatives and liberals have great ideas, but the violence and the hatred and the
that's embraced. Let's call it that. They don't distance themselves from it.
That's embraced. We talk about a great example is Black Lives Matters, and you see a lot of people attacking them. But you have to go back to Black Lives Matters manifesto, the actual leaders, what they say they believe in, what they do.
Right.
Not somebody who co-opts the name and then acts in a completely different way. That's contrary to the beliefs of the organization.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
No.
Now, if that was happening to one of these right organizations, I would say the same thing.
Right.
But when the actual leaders of the organization, this is in their manifesto, this is in their belief pattern, and they preach and put this out and then wait for somebody to sort of react, go and shoot up a pizzeria or whatever. There's responsibility to be had there.
Oh, yeah.
In the free speech. And you have to own that. And you can't own it by saying, oh, the left does it. Where? Show me. And I'm saying, honestly, send me something because, I mean, I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure there's things out there. But show me where it happened and let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
Because generally, when that happens on the left, they'll make certain claims. Like a lot of them like to say that Hitler was a socialist. He was absolutely not a socialist. They call North Korea a democracy. That's about as socialist as Hitler ever was. He might have stole some social policies early on to kind of smooth the way, but he quickly got rid of those and went into a pure fascist government. That's obvious.
Right.
To say that he's from the left is ridiculous from almost any sort of point of view.
Yeah.
It just isn't true.
Right.
And, so again, I put it out there. Progressive versus conservative. There's a lot of interesting why this philosophy is so hated and so attacked on the progressive and liberal side when you really don't have the ammunition you seem to think you do. I just don't. And so I'm challenging folks to give me something because I don't want to say that I know it all and I'm blanket because I'm sure there's more information out there, but this is my feeling on it. And it's a big concern for me because I think we need to start recognizing that is not acceptable behavior. It is not acceptable rhetoric, and it's out there. It's in the mainstream now. And it hasn't been for a while, and it needs to be pushed back for very good reasons, historically, philosophically, and for the health of the overall nation. If you want to be all American, red, white, and blue, then you protect the weak and the sick. You don't attack them and criminalize them. That's just wrong.
Well, here's a couple of things here.
All right, give it to me.
Number one, so let's go. First of all, they don't see those people as weak. They don't see those people as victims. They see those people as perpetrators, people trying to run a scam, people trying to essentially, really, let's just be honest, destabilize white America. Because when they say America, they say Christian, white. That's really, especially the hardcore base. What the fuck is that?
I don't know.
It's your fucking phone. Turn that shit off.
I don't know where it's coming from.
It's right there, man.
You know what? It hurt. That's crazy. All right.
Wow.
My phone is hearing us talk.
Jim's phone's trying to go all Skynet on us. Pretty soon there's going to be a fucking explosion in the backyard.
I can't get it to stop. Shut up. Hold on.
Well, it's the 75-year-old man segment of the show.
Hey, where's my jitterbug?
Holy crap. So
Seriously,
anyway, back to what I was saying.
It won't turn off.
They don't see these people as victims, or they see all the cultural change going on in this country as some sort of attack on white. They don't understand the word homogeny because in their mind, homogeny means everybody becomes white. That's what multiculturalism to them. The melting pot is you melt and do everything a white guy does, which is really pretty absurd, right? And like you're saying, with each of these tenets, you talked about one earlier, and we didn't talk about it. We talked before we got here. One of those is civil rights. Well, I mean, conservative America fought civil rights till the last possible day they could, right? And there's a guy at the tip of the tiny top of the boat standing, waiting until his feet gets wet, finally jumps off and says, okay, we should let these people have civil rights and vote. Right? So the same thing here is going to happen here. They're fighting for this image that they think is America that never really existed to begin with.
Right. There were no good old days.
No, they see this as an assault on the institution that they think is America, right? Because they've insulated and isolated themselves, right? To with only white faces, to see, and everyone else is almost adversarial to their way of life, which is ridiculous. When their way of life was created as a homogeny. All of these people, the thing you celebrate St. Patrick's Day, most of you motherfuckers aren't fucking Irish, right? You eat hot dogs. You use mustard. You are not fucking German. Fucking pretzels. Those are all these ethnic foods that are now American.
Right.
That are all taken from different ethnicities. A pizza. So all these things that we take as American,
right,
all had roots in other ethnicities, right?
Yeah, well, the entire country is rooted in other ethnicities.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck.
Right. It just happens to be I understand what you're saying.
It's like they're still sitting on, the ship is sinking, and Trump is a reaction to that sinking ship. Mm-hmm. They went as extreme and as crazy as they thought. Okay, yeah, this guy is batshit bonkers. There are so many things wrong with him, but at least he identifies with our problem.
Right.
Or says he does. Mm-hmm. Now, as you and I discussed, I don't think he's really doing anything for those people. This tax cut is a perfect example. Most of the people who voted for him will see minimal return from this tax cut.
Right, and they're gonna lose health care. They're gonna see their health rates go up most likely.
They're not gonna be able to get health care.
The mandate has been removed.
Again,
so
I have a sweet job.
Yeah, you guys
are having a fucking issue for me. Right. And when I don't anymore, I'm just gonna eat a bullet. So it's not gonna really matter. But get ready for your new health policy. Since you guys love to have your guns and everything, get that silver bullet polished up to pop yourself in the fucking dome when you get that $100,000 cancer bill, because that's your new exit strategy.
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the folks that kind of switched on Obamacare will realize that they got their butts saved by it. Because they ended up having something they didn't expect, and thank God they had the insurance they didn't think they wanted to buy.
Somewhat affordable. A
lot of people flipped over. Yeah, now the pricing is still a problem. I mean, we still pay more
for
healthcare in this country. There's still problems. Obamacare was
Democrats
not the solution.
Admit this.
It's just, it had a few good things in it, and it did a lot for some people, but it didn't do a lot for other people, and we're still digging into the pockets of a lot of people. And honestly, that's what we need to be focusing on, is how do I get healthcare's hands out of people's pockets? They should be able to afford healthcare.
Business out of corporate America. Why should a company have to assist me with my healthcare cost?
Yeah, that's shotgun marriage between business and
why do I have to have a job to have healthcare? Doesn't make any fucking sense.
It doesn't make sense, because the only time I've said this a few times before, you need healthcare from the time you're born to the time you die.
Yeah.
And the times you need it the most are the times you can afford it the least.
Right.
Either as a child or as when you're elderly.
Yeah.
And those are the times where you make no money. So you, by definition, have to rely on someone else for your health care. You always will. It's impossible to get around that. So either you don't get it and you die, or you live a very, very miserable life, or somebody else has to buck up for it. So why don't we just admit that, and admit it's like keeping the roads paved and keeping a fire department and a police department, and let's just share the cost amongst everybody. And people say, well, that's a government takeover. Actually, if you interview people in Canada,
propaganda.
It's the opposite. Doctors in Canada have very little interference with their medical. No one's telling them whether or not they can order an MRI or what kind of medication they can
prescribe. At least
you're
getting a fucking MRI.
And then you're getting the
there's
MRI.
The goddamn dip. Like everyone thinks that they're going to win the fucking lottery. So you're going to be on the ship up in did you ever see that movie Matt Damon, the science fiction? I guess you didn't see it, because you don't see any cool movies. So Elysium was the name of the movie. So the premise is, so Matt Damon's in the movie, is a science fiction set in the not too distant future where all of the super rich people essentially built this super advanced space station.
Oh, right.
That is, only holds a small tiny fraction of the Earth.
Right.
And also they hold all of the health. Like, they have these machines, essentially, you just sit in it and it just fixes you.
Right.
Right.
And they don't let anybody else use it.
Yeah, only these elite people can get there.
And they somehow convince themselves that they deserve it and those people don't.
Right. And the whole Earth is full of just essentially factory workers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So that's the whole idea. Everybody's going to get to Elysium. Most of you won't not get to fucking Elysium.
Right.
In fact, all of you won't get there. Just, you won't. So you're going to need, just unbelievable.
Well, I think
I'm just fucking done talking about it right now.
Yeah, I'm going to transition out of this. I think one of the things to think about, folks, is if you're an average worker, going to work every day, or maybe working 2 jobs, whatever, you don't really have time to think in terms of those big. You're worried about making the rent. You're worried about making sure your kids are in school and they're healthy. You're worried about all these little things. And every time you turn around, someone's reaching in your pocket, take a little bit more, take a little bit more. And you see that frustration in a lot of the way these people react. And you can totally understand it, especially when you have people that speak to them and then turn around and do things that are counterproductive to them.
Yeah.
And then find a way to explain it to them that's brilliant, so that these people just keep drinking the sand instead of the water. Let's talk about sports.
Let's go on to something else.
Yeah, because I'm sweating. I'm so upset.
Well, before we do that, I want to go get us onto the international stage, because I think this is important.
Okay.
To illustrate how ill-equipped old boy is to handle the world stage. So there's a lot of political unrest going on right now in Iran. Part of that is due to the sanctions, which I really feel like they've made into this boogeyman that's just kind of similar to North Korea, a little less so because they have valuable, what's considered at this particular time in history, access to valuable resources, which is oil, right? But from a geopolitical, influence, really, Iran's not in my opinion. If you know the history of the country, the history of Islam, the history of Persians, that Iran really isn't our enemy. Right? I feel like it's a made-up boogeyman played upon by most people's ignorance of the region, right? And anyway, but to the civil unrest there, like there's food prices are high, unemployment's high among the youth. There's certain things that two things that are in combination ultimately are going to lead to street protest anywhere, right?
Right.
But it's Trump's reaction. There's a big crackdown. It's an authoritarian government, right? People have died in the streets, but we, there's this big reaction from the Trump White House, from our UN ambassador, that fucking broad Haley, the only woman in the Trump administration. Let's just call her that. We don't have to call it anything else. She's the only qualified one. Davos is there, but she doesn't count. She should really just be washing cars, in my opinion. But anyway, there's this reaction, like, we're with the protesters. Iran needs to support their people's rights. Like, how? So not only do we have this buffoon running the country, we're spewing this, hypocritical rhetoric. Like, what about the unrest with the Trayvon Martin? What about the unrest? We had our own street wars going on here after. What was the one in St. Louis? What was the Jefferson? Where there was like street protests for like a week and a half, dude.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, no,
there's been St. Louis,
been a lot of stuff
Missouri.
Going on. Right.
All right. So anyway, we've had our own series of civil unrest that have led to destruction of property, deaths, and not only that, our police are killing literally almost 2,000 people a year, just fucking shooting them. Right. You had that thing with that stupid internet crap, the swatting. Right, the fake phone call. So I guess you don't know about this. All right, this kid made a phone call, right?
Yeah, fake SWAT phone call. I remember that.
Yeah, fake. They got families being held, gunpoint, yada yada, and the cop just fucking wastes the kid at the doorway, right? And we're gonna spew that we saw how, the best we are, somehow policing our citizens in some manner that is completely benevolent and the model of how to handle your citizenry. It's absurd.
Right.
Because we have major issues with how our authoritarian or people in authority deal with their citizenry.
Right.
Major problems. And we have the largest portion of we have more people incarcerated than any country in the world. How can you say you have a civil rights problem when you have more people incarcerated than anybody else in the world?
Yeah.
When you have more deaths by your state police forces,
right,
than they do in any other first world country. So they had this thing in Australia where they had like 2 shootings by police. 2.
Right.
That neither one of them led to a death because they weren't fatal shots. 2.
Right.
So it's like, it just baffles my. It's just the epitome of absurdity.
Yeah.
And that somehow they're trying to pass this off as that we're supposed to take them seriously. That this is the rest of the world's taking them seriously. That there's some sort of weight behind this commentary.
Right. Well, that goes back to, again, what you're saying. The credibility of the United States has been so undermined because when Trump says something now, everyone's kind of like, they don't treat it with like the full weight and force of the United States. They feel like this reality show going on, and they don't know what it means because he still does have the strength and the power. We're still the United States, but you've got this guy that's just playing like a video game who doesn't understand what he's saying. I mean, the very first day when he calls Taiwan,
Yeah.
and people were like, "Oh, what's the big deal? He just made a phone call." It's like you just waddled right into the middle of a huge
Or
diplomatic
he accepted the phone
mess.
call from someone. Yeah.
Did he accept the phone call or did he call? I thought he called.
accepted.
Well, whatever it is, it's one of
President
those
of
things.
Taiwan called to congratulate him.
Right.
And he shouldn't have taken the call.
And he's not supposed to take the call. Why? Because we're not. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that we can't take the call as well.
Well, you can
but
do it,
solve
but
the
you have to
political
do it
problem.
politically. You have to, like,
you're talking about. You've got to
Talk
understand
to
that
my Secretary of State, dude.
China is talk to the secretary. China is the second largest economy in the world. So as much as we think we can just march around and do whatever we want on our own, you can't. You know, there's people to be dealt with. We are not alone out there, and there's a lot of precedent, there's a lot of history. Sometimes it seems like he thinks that the world started when he got elected,
That's probably what he thinks.
and because he wasn't
That should
there,
be a T-shirt.
It doesn't
Trump,
matter.
The world started when I got elected.
That's pretty much the way he seems to view things. But I'm still ready to get into sports or something lighter. Because there's been an
Fine.
there's been some angry crackers over here.
Fine.
2018.
Let's see what we got here. All right. and-
Elections matter, folks. Think globally, act
Well,
locally.
we're going to get to that, when the time is close. We're not going to bombard you with. Let's do. We will save that for another time.
Okay.
I got a pretty good quote. Maybe let's just change it to a bit more philosophical. So there's
Lay
this
some
really good
philosophy
quote.
on me, Sideshow Todd.
It's a quote. It's this idea. Being out in the corporate world, we all see these personas that people put out there, or how people live their lives according to like a structure, essentially, where they think this is what people want to see, or they're following what pop culture is impressing on them. That is the everyday man. Like you're the guy when you're doing this, and that changes over time, and as do people. Hair, like the beard.
Right.
The beard thing is absurd.
The beard.
Right?
Or the man bun.
Well, whatever. You can pick a trend.
Metrosexual.
Right, Birkenstocks. Yeah. Those are stupid. But yeah, so you pick a trend, and then that becomes the everyday man person. You accept that mantle by taking all those things on.
Right.
Right. And that's kind of what this quote, and I didn't even write down the philosopher's name, but I will go ahead and read it, and we can noodle over that. So many people are frightened by the wonder of their own presence. They are dying to tie themselves into a system, a role, or to an image, or to a predetermined identity that other people have actually settled on for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think honestly, there's a few things about that. One of them is just the way that the people wear, a mask in society. Yeah. You talk about, you go back to
Right.
Billy Joel and The Stranger,
Right.
People wear a mask that they go out in public with.
They do.
And that's, just a part of, the layers of communication. In the modern society, they see certain things that project a certain image. They want that image, so they get those things. They put the Lexus in the driveway. They wear the Brooks Brothers tie.
They're trying to fit in.
Whatever it might be.
They're trying
to
to
fit into one or two. And this is actually really fleshed out in high school. Every movie says, okay, here's the nerdy Asian kids. Those are cool Asian kids. There's the hipsters. There's the stoners. There's the jocks. There's the mean girls. It's the way people put on these faces to go out instead of being like what I think you're getting at, getting to them truth selves.
Right.
In other words, they shouldn't care what other people think. And that's an overstatement. You should obviously be concerned about what other people think, because if you're being an asshole, people have a right to tell you, hey, don't be such an asshole. We have to But at the same time, you shouldn't worry about other people's judgments about what you enjoy. Well, and I think it's actually a little better than you're letting on right now, because the rise of the nerd in the last 10, 20, 15 years or so, I think has been great, because there's a lot of kids that were ostracized when we were kids. If you played Dungeons and Dragons or did that stuff, you were a nerd, you were ostracized from society. You didn't get to go to the dances. No one wanted to go out with you. Well, and today, people can embrace their nerdness, and people are much more accepting. I think actually society is growing in this area. You see it with the different types of people, sexuality, race, interracial, all these things becoming more accepted in the general population. Now, not by some people in the media and things like that, but overall, we have continued to progress in those areas. So, yeah, people wear a mask when they go out.
Well, I think it's the other thing I was hitting on. It's, people don't necessarily want to do the real work to find out who they are. It's just easy to glam on. In the nerd movie is the perfect one. It became, I'm a nerd, like, because I like comic books. Like, no, you just like comic books. You're not a fucking nerd.
Right.
You know what I mean? No, you get out of here. You know, so like it became this thing to be versus a true character trait, right? And that's what I mean. Like it's like, okay, it's just easy to say, oh, well, I'm this because of this one little idiosyncrasy in my personality.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a problem. You think about like the guy who'd be the farmer. He wore boots and he wore his dungarees and he wore his shirt, not because they were fashionable, because they were practical to who he was and what he did.
Right.
He never gave a second thought about
right.
it. That's just what they did, and that was very common in my family too. They drove good cars because they were good cars. Mm-hmm. You know, why are you a Chevy man? You're not a Chevy man because of the commercial. You're a Chevy man because you know how to repair them, because you've had 10 Chevys in your life since you were a kid, and your father had them. You know how to fix them, and you know how they're going to run, and you're just comfortable with the brand and the model, and that's why you keep doing it. As opposed to, the person with a certain type of car in their yard who probably just bought it because of and spent twice as much money as they needed to for that. And that's sort of the self-identification I think you're driving at. And, it'd be better if people, the earlier in life, they begin to understand it, to accept who they are and put that out, make the world more interesting place, less homogenous.
Yes.
I think Macklemore sung about that with the the $50 for a T-shirt, as it says.
Thrift shop.
Yeah, thrift shop. Grandpa style.
To the thrift shop.
My buddy asked me about that song. My buddy Jim.
Yeah.
And he goes, "What's Grandpa style?" Jim's like 100 if he's 5, and I said, "Dude, anything you do, it's Grandpa style." It's like, fuck you, man. He's not that old.
What up?
But he's old enough. What up?
So yeah, all right. Anyway, something for you cats to noodle on out there.
Yeah, noodle on.
So let's go on to sports sins. Get a little lighter and lighter. It's going to be the Winter Olympics soon, folks. Yeah. Who's excited about that?
Mm-hmm. Ice skating and some bobsledding and some.
I'm not. Who likes the Winter Olympics?
I don't like it ever since they split them up. I liked it when they did the Olympics all in the same year.
It seemed to be more of an event.
It just seemed like a much bigger deal because it was every 4 years, and you have the winter and the summer in the same year, and you were way more into it.
The whole year was around. There was always Olympic talk.
Yeah, everybody's everybody's into the Summer Olympics because they're just sports people enjoy more for the most part.
Indeed.
And the Winter Olympics is kind of like the redheaded stepchild, And if you don't have somebody beaten up on ice skater or something, I don't know what the draw is.
Honestly, there's a couple of sports I'll try and catch. I kind of dig the bobsled. Mm-hmm. That's kind of fun.
Curling I just watch that and I just want a beer.
That's how I feel about that.
They should make them drink beer.
That's
while
a really big sport though in Canada. Actually,
I know, and I'm sure it's a lot of fun.
No, I've tried. It's like kind of like soccer. I'm like I really tried many times
to like soccer.
Yeah, and I'm just too red-blooded American. But anyway,
did you ever go feather bowling?
No. Fuck curling. So that's how I was going with this. I enjoy the hockey. Because usually the U.S. team is competitive. But then the downhill, like when the guys are going like 70 miles an hour downhill skiing.
You're just waiting for the guy to wipe out.
No, it's fucking cool.
The Tragedy of Defeat, one of the best videos of all time. That guy just rolled like a cartwheel all the way down the mountain.
Horrible.
I think he broke every bone in his body, but I believe he lived. I'm pretty sure he lived, or they wouldn't just keep showing it over and over.
I don't think it mattered in 1984.
If they die, they die. You just grab another East German out of the
I mean, the ski jumping was kind of That's really about it. I mean, I don't care for many of the other winter sports. Mm-hmm. Like, who wants to watch somebody cross-country ski?
Well, what if they shoot too?
Well, even then, it's kind of that they do this.
No, I'm with you. It's just not as intriguing as the Summer Olympics. But I wish they would do them all in the same year. We should make it an Olympic year and just be badass about it.
Maybe
that would be cool.
Move gymnastics over to the Winter Olympics because it's indoors. And basketball, maybe, because then
that's indoors.
Because it's indoors. It doesn't really matter.
Or maybe all the sports that are trying to kick out of the Summer Olympics that we still like.
That are indoor sports.
Yeah,
you can have all the pool sports. You don't need to be outside for that.
Yeah, there we go. Let's get some swimmers. I like a good race.
See.
All
right, so on to our local sports update for Chicagoans, obviously. So the Bears. So,
Arizona's a suburb of Chicago.
We'll talk about those guys, too. There's some worthy conversation there. So, RIP Foxy. No more John Fox. Foxy's
gone.
Yep.
And I think he did a better job than. I don't think people were too mad at him. They just kind of like, well, we knew it was a rebuilding year, but he didn't seem to like he was the guy who was going to get him any further. He was just sort of like a store manager, like a Walmart greeter of NFL coaches. While we gut the team and fix all the Treshman era, Treshman.
Yeah,
it's Treshman, but somehow that Freudian
Treshman
slipped it.
Emery.
Yeah,
Treshman
we could have had Bruce Arians that whole time.
Yep, sure could have.
Yeah, but anyway, so I mean, I don't know if it's time for a new head coach yet because I think there's still another couple years away. This is more about the GM and the draft picks. But I guess it makes sense because if they are a couple years away, you want the head coach to start building his team up because otherwise you get like John Gruden in Tampa where Tony Dungy builds the team and Gruden slides in and gets the Super Bowl with his players.
Sure,
that was back-assward, I thought.
Well,
luckily Tony got his in Indianapolis, but
is all the players loved him, right?
Yeah.
And clearly he was well respected. But where I didn't see that make it on the field is like the penalties. They had a lot of mistakes that a well coached team, in my opinion, don't make.
Right.
That was my. I can get over the predictable offense. I can get over
talent, limited tools.
I can get over those things.
Yeah.
But when you false starts, you have stupid penalties.
Yeah.
Guys not guys not really things not well oiled. Things can still be well oiled even with average players.
Right.
That's just coaching.
That's just coaching, and it must be his the position coach that he hired, and maybe he wasn't didn't have the hammer down on these guys hard enough, or
maybe know how to motivate the modern player, whatever.
Maybe it is they've got so many things on their plate and their limited amount of practice time that they're given that they're working on other problems and they just can't get to everything.
But other teams are able to do that with similar rosters. So it's just
but
I'm sorry. It's
I'm not in the meeting, so I don't know. But I'm with you. I mean,
if the Bills can make it to the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor and their quarterback issue,
you can be slow, fat, whatever, but you can still not jump off sides.
Yeah,
especially if you're slow and fat.
Yeah,
you probably even have a harder time jumping.
You don't
off
have to jump or do false starts.
Yeah, there's all kinds of penalties that you could avoid.
Right.
That are just. I mean, like the pass interferences, I'm kind of okay with because that's a battle. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it's a good foul.
Right.
Sometimes hey, you better pull the guy down, otherwise he's going to be gone.
Right.
So those kind of penalties. Sometimes the late hits and stuff. I also really feel bad for the guys because they're such in the middle of it. And all of a sudden they go, oh, got to stop.
Right. I'm talking about procedural penalties.
Yeah, procedural penalties are the ones. No, I'm
those.
agreeing with you in saying that. Those are the penalties that really just chap your hide. And any head coach should just really, really want to go down. So I get that. What else do you think that he was?
No, that was my thing. I what I don't feel good about is who they're going to bring in next because number one, it's a really bad timing in the NFL. Like everybody fired their coach.
Yeah, you got
a shitload of competitive.
And where's the better jobs?
Yeah, and you can make an argument that all of them are, in my opinion,
better jobs than.
Yeah,
well, I mean, the thing is, and why is it? It's because working for the
McCaskies.
Nobody wants to work for the McCaskies. Where Arians came out of Arizona and said Michael Bidwell's the best owner in the NFL. And other coaches are hearing that. It's a top-notch organization, top to bottom. Ever since they got
well-respected coach, well-respected
coach and
pretty much a miracle they were 8-8 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah.
And they losing your star quarterback and the best running back in the league.
Yep.
In the same season, and you still were competitive in a pretty tough division.
Yeah, Bruce Arians lost a lot of games because his key players were getting down on him the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean
his record would have been even better than it is. And of course, any coach's record.
If Michael Floyd could have keep his shit together and not been a drunk asshole, it's like, that's just the game though. But still, he didn't have his health, longevity to ride it out.
Mm-hmm.
You give the guy another cycle of players, I'll bet he could easily take him to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Give him a whole other time to rebuild it again. These things take time. Yeah, he probably would. But he's been around the game for a long time, and his health was obviously
he's
concerned.
65.
Which is he's not a young, but he seems like he's older than 65. I think he's got.
I think the guys are crazy, coach. You got to be just wired differently to be able to coach in the NFL into your 70s. You just got to be wired differently than most people.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, because it's none of those guys look healthy ever.
No.
You know, they never sleep, and they're just way too much work that they have to do. I mean, with the new guidelines for the practice, it makes it even that much harder because they can't even do the work they want to do.
Well,
They can't
back
work
to my
as
point
hard as
though.
they want.
There's so many open positions.
Yeah.
Right. So if I feel it would. So what they're doing is they're doing this Ted Phillips and whichever fucking dickhole McCaskey is in charge now, they rotate. It was Mike, now it's George. Are going out with Pace to sell the Bears' job, essentially. I'm like, man, just let that little boy go out on his own, right? Because you guys are not going to help the situation.
Right.
Because in my opinion, as a football guy, I don't think Pace has really made that great of decisions. That roster is not in that great a shape. Core talent on the offensive and defensive lines is thin.
Yeah.
And they're not super young on the offensive and defensive lines. They got holes at middle linebacker, outside linebacker, corner, at guard, both guards. I mean, Love long, but he's 30 and he had a terrible year of injuries. And the guy needs a year off. Really, they should have shut him down week 6, essentially.
Yeah.
And played him for next year.
You looked at when we looked at the roster, you knew this was going to. I mean, when you looked at the schedule before the season started, you knew this was a dead end season. Yeah, take your guard of the future because you're going to need that guy.
Labrum in his shoulder. He played for most of the season with. I imagine pushing 300-pound guys around with a torn muscle in your shoulder.
I don't know. I mean, I had that, and I couldn't lift my arm.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he was doing it. I mean, I'm sure he had a.
Well, he wasn't a Pro Bowler, so he wasn't doing it that his normal level.
Yeah,
how could he? How could you?
You can't with one arm.
No way. Yeah.
But
so
they rolled him out there anyway. And
that was fucked. And so you as a head coach, I'm like, well, what are you going to do in the next draft? Is my question. Are you going to get the core guys? Because this should have been the draft. If you're going to draft a quarterback, if you're going to take a big risk and give up draft picks for a quarterback you didn't need to give draft picks for. And then I'm going to go you're going to go get him. No, you don't go get him weapons. You get him guys that protect him.
Yeah, you get him beef. So
you go get a tackle.
So you're saying we should have delayed the quarterback pick till this year?
No, I'm fine with the pick. But your number 2 pick should have been like a tackle, a center, a guard.
We already had Glennon. I'm kind of thinking, that first round pick should have been for beef. Not for talent.
You could say that too.
I mean, unless you had like an Andrew Luck coming out, which we don't know that about.
They were so
in
lights out crazy, and from what I understand, Pace felt like he had to make a big splash with a quarterback. Like they could not go another year because maybe in the back of his mind he did know how bad Glennon sucked, right? Maybe he did. And he's like, man, if I don't have a rookie that can do something and waiting in the wings, my ass is toast.
Right.
And that's the only reason I see how it works because it obviously played out true, right?
Well, it didn't work out the way you wanted. I think they wanted to sit Trubinsky for the full year.
Well, they did.
And they knew they're all going to be out on their ass in week 6 if they didn't pull Glennon.
He was miserable.
Yeah, he was basically playing for the other team.
8 turnovers in 4 games.
I mean, it was
just that's the one thing he could not do. Is do 8 turnovers in 4 games.
The very first play, I think, the first play of his career or the first play I saw was a pick 6.
Balls were off his knees. I mean, it was just. Not all that was his fault.
Not all of it was his fault, but
because he was just big doofus. I'm sorry.
He just wasn't. I got dropped frames.
What? Drop frames? What?
Nah, we're just hitting the point where if we go too long, we start to worry about losing our hookups. So we should probably wrap this up. I think we've hit that.
We'll stop when we're fucking ready.
Well, there won't be anybody. There's nobody listening anyway. But if they were, they wouldn't be able to hear us.
It's still recording, right?
I believe so.
All right, great. Keep rolling. So, anyway, Bears wrap up. I don't think they're going to get a good coach. I really don't. I think their best bet would be to just hire Fangio, the defensive coordinator, as the head coach.
Yeah.
I think that's their best bet. It's the guys they know. The guys know him. And then they bring in some young... I think they were talking to the quarterback coach of the Rams. They're talking some sexy quarterback coach.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the guys that was out there getting discussed.
I say bring that guy in to tutelage on Trubinsky. Hire Fangio as your head coach. or even make that cat the defensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator, whatever. Fangio's been on deck for a lot of years. He's been interviewed prior. He's been on deck since the Harbaugh days. So fucking give him a shot, because I don't see anybody else on the street that's going to be that much better. Everybody else is going to be a major gamble. Major gamble. It's like a it's like a Dave Wanstead gamble. Like you never what?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's like a Josh McDaniels out there.
Fuck that kid. No way. I don't want any coach from the Patriots organization unless his name is Bill Belichick.
Yeah, they haven't had a great record. Coming out of his organization.
Nope. All little assholes. It's clear who the mastermind is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what anybody says.
He's not teaching those guys up. So
no.
All right.
Or they're not learning the right lessons.
All right, my friend. What do you got? What else?
So we can just touch on the Bulls for the one other person who cares is John. John is even listening.
I doubt it.
Fuck him. So Bulls have been playing a lot better lately
72 kids. He's got to worry about.
Nico Marichich came back and played really well.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been in a resurgence. They won like 8 games in a row at one point. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, because they weren't winning anything.
No. So he was a big return, and that Levine kid they got from the Jimmy Butler draft, I think, is someplace soon. So, yeah, yay. Anyway, so that's about it. Blackhawks having trouble scoring, which I think everybody knew they would without Marian Hossa, and it's come true. So been a little disappointing in that regard. And yeah, I guess we can wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, look at that. There's the music from the producer.
Oh,
I think he's saying that we got to go to break.
Well, I think you guys are crazy, Coach. I mean, you got to be just wired differently to be able to coach in the NFL into your 70s. You just got to be wired differently than most people.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, because none of those guys look healthy ever.
No.
They never sleep, and they're just way too much work that they have to do. I mean, with the new guidelines for the practice, it makes it even that much harder because they can't even do the work they want to do.
Well, back to my point though.
They want.
There's so many open positions.
Yeah.
Right. So if I feel it would, so what they're doing is they're doing this Ted Phillips and whichever fucking dickhole McCaskey is in charge now, they rotate. It was Mike, now it's George. Are going out with pace to sell the Bears' job, essentially. I'm like, man, just let that little boy go out on his own, right? Because you guys are not going to help the situation.
Right.
Because in my opinion, as a football guy, I don't think Pace has really made that great of decisions. That roster is not in that great a shape. Core talent on the offensive and defensive lines is thin.
Yeah.
And they're not super young on the offensive and defensive lines. They got holes at middle linebacker, outside linebacker, corner, at guard, both guards. I mean, Love Long, but he's 30. And he had a terrible year of injuries, and the guy needs a year off. Really, they should have shut him down week 6, essentially. Yeah, and played him for next year.
You looked at when we looked at the roster. You knew this was going to. I mean, you looked at the schedule before the season started. You knew this was a dead end season. Yeah, take your guard of the future because you're going to need that guy.
Labrum in his shoulder. He played for most of the season with. I imagine pushing 300-pound guys around with a torn muscle in your shoulder.
I don't know. I mean, I had that, and I couldn't lift my arm.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he was doing it. I mean, I'm sure he had a.
Well, he wasn't a Pro Bowler, so he wasn't doing it that as normal level.
Yeah.
How could he? How could you?
You can't with one
arm. No way. Yeah.
But
so
they rolled him out there anyway. And
that was fucked. And so you as a head coach, I'm like, well, what are you going to do in the next draft is my question. Are you going to get the core guys? Because this should have been the draft. If you're going to draft a quarterback, if you're going to take a big risk and give up draft picks for a quarterback you didn't need to give draft picks for, and then you're going to go you're going to go get him. No, you don't go get him weapons. You get him guys that protect him.
Yeah, you get him beef. So
you go get a tackle.
So you're saying we should have delayed the quarterback pick till this year?
No, I'm fine with the pick, but your number 2 pick should have been like a tackle, a center, a guard.
We already had Glennon. I'm kind of thinking, that first round pick should have been for beef, not for talent.
You could say that too.
I mean, unless you had like an Andrew Luck coming out, which we don't know that about.
They were so
They were so in love
lights
with
out
this.
crazy, and from what I understand, Pace felt like he had to make a big splash with a quarterback. Like they could not go another year because maybe in the back of his mind he did know how bad Glennon sucked, right? Maybe he did, and he's like,
Yeah.
man, if I don't have a rookie that can do something, and the waiting in the wings, my ass is toast.
Right.
And that's the only reason I see how it works, because it obviously played out true, right?
Well, it didn't work out the way you wanted. I think they wanted to sit Trubinsky for the full year.
Well, they did.
And they knew they're all going to be out on their ass in week 6 if they didn't pull Glennon. 'Cause
Yeah.
He was,
He was miserable.
he was basically playing for the other team.
8 turnovers in 4 games.
I mean, it was
just, that's the one thing he could not do, is do 8 turnovers in 4 games.
the very first play. I think the
yeah.
first play of his
Second,
career or the
like,
first play I
oh,
saw
it's just-
was a pick 6.
Balls were off his knees. I mean, it was just, not all that was his fault.
Not all of it was his fault, but
Because he was just big doofus. I'm sorry.
it just wasn't. I got dropped frames.
What? Drop frames? What?
Nah, we're just hitting the point where if we go too long, we start to worry about losing our hookups. So we should probably wrap this up. I think we've hit that.
We'll stop when we're fucking ready.
Well, there won't be anybody. There's nobody listening anyway. But if they were, they wouldn't be able to hear us. 'Cause
Well,
probably
it's
not-
still recording, right?
I believe so.
All right, great. Keep rolling. So, anyway, Bears wrap up. I don't think they're going to get a good coach. I really don't. I think their best bet would be to just hire Fangio, the defensive coordinator, as the head coach.
Yeah.
I think that's their best bet. It's the guys they know. The guys know him. And then they bring in some young... I think they were talking to the quarterback coach of the Rams. They're talking
Yeah,
some sexy quarterback coach.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the guys that was out there getting discussed.
I say bring that guy in to tutelage on Trubinsky. Hire Fangio as your head coach, or even make that cat the defensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator, whatever. Fangio's been on deck for a lot of years. He's been interviewed prior. He's been on deck since the Harbaugh days. So fucking give him a shot, because I don't see anybody else on the street that's going to be that much better. Everybody else is going to be is a major gamble. Major gamble. It's like a it's like a Dave Wanstead gamble. Like you never what?
I don't know. There's like a Josh McDaniels out there.
Fuck that kid. No way. I don't want any coach from the Patriots organization unless his name is Bill Belichick.
Yeah, they haven't had a great record. have they, coming out of his organization.
Nope. All little assholes. It's clear who the mastermind is. I don't care what anybody says.
He's not teaching those guys up. So
No.
all right.
Or they're not learning the right lessons.
All right, my friend. What do you got? What else?
So we can just touch on the Bulls for the one other person who cares is John. John is even listening.
I doubt it.
Fuck him. So Bulls have been playing a lot better lately
72
because
kids. He's got to worry about.
Nico Marichich came back and played really well.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been in a resurgence. They won like 8 games in a row at one point. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, because they weren't winning anything. last
No.
year.
So he was a big return, and that Levine kid they got from the Jimmy Butler draft, I think, is someplace soon. So, yeah, yay. Anyway, so that's about it. Blackhawks having trouble scoring, which I think everybody knew they would without Marion Hossa, and it's come true. So, been a little disappointing in that regard. And, yeah, I guess we can wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, look at that. There's the music from the producer. I think
Oh,
he's saying that we got to go to break.
well,
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the first Damn It Jim show of 2018. I hope everybody had a great holiday, and that is Christmas, New Year's, or any of the other ones that
Kwanzaa.
you guys celebrate. Those are the ones that I celebrate. But I hope whatever you celebrated, you have time with family and friends. And let's hope 2018 is a better year. I think the last couple have been a little bit rough. Not crazy about it. It's going to go on. All right, everybody. And we are going to say in 3, 2, and let's hope the 2018 is a better year. I think the last couple have been a little bit rough.
Doesn't
Not
look
crazy
good.
about it.
Doesn't look good.
It's going to be crazier in politics because I don't know how much longer this is
Buy
going to go
more
on.
ammo.
All right, everybody. And we are going to say in 3, 2, and click.
Well,
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the first Damn It Jim show of 2018. I hope everybody had a great holiday, and that is Christmas, New Year's, or any of the other ones that
Kwanzaa.
you guys celebrate. Those are the ones that I celebrate. But I hope whatever you celebrated, you had an awesome time with family and friends. And let's hope the 2018 is a better year. I think the last couple have been a little bit rough.
Doesn't
Not
look
crazy
good.
about it.
Doesn't look good.
It's going to be a crazy year in politics because I don't know how much longer this is
Buy
going to go
more
on.
ammo.
All right, everybody. And we are going to say in 3, 2, and click.